Well, Oklahoma's Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry coordinates the efforts to control wildfire outbreaks in our state. And I visited with the Department of Ag's Mark Goeller just hours after the last fires were put out. Well, Mark, I know the high winds and then the low humidities were the chief culprits of yesterday's fires. But what role did the ice storms in recent years, what role did they play with all the downed limbs that are out there?
Well, certainly it will play into the intensity of the fires that we've had, especially in the wooded areas. As you mentioned earlier, the wind and humidity are probably our biggest factor for the fire problem that we had yesterday. You know, with the humidities down in the single digits and winds gusting over 50 miles an hour, that's a bad day in anybody's view. But the problem associated with it, fire behavior is a very complicated subject and a very complicated thing to figure. But when we start looking at the fuel load, whether it's ice storm damage, the limbs and treetops associated with that, but also the grassy fuels that we've got, the leaves that we have, all the growth that we have each year that is dormant and cured and ready to burn this time of year, you know, it's all a very complex subject, as I mentioned, and certainly all of it was a factor in yesterday's fire event.
Now, in recent years, we've seen cedar trees fuel many of these wildfires, and while they may not have been a direct cause yesterday, I'm assuming that they still gave firefighters some headaches.
Well, Rob, any time that we have the weather conditions that we had yesterday, and any fuels that are on the ground, or even the cedar trees, or any of the other trees, as a matter of fact, it could be the pine forests of eastern Oklahoma, or any of the coniferous trees that we have. And under those conditions, if they are drought stressed at all, or it's very dry conditions, then they're available to burn.
Now, I know there's very little that firefighters can do when you have such high winds and blowing embers, but in the future, are there things homeowners can do to better protect their homes?
Yes, there are. I would direct everybody to go to the FireWise site, firewise.org, www.firewise.org, and to check out the things that homeowners can do for their particular piece of property. That they have some specific guidelines there that they can look at as far as vegetation close to their property, how they can protect their homes from wind-blown embers. And that's primarily what is the main factor when we're talking about homes burning, is the wind-blown embers, especially on a day like yesterday. And when we have the conditions that we had and the amount of fuel that was being lifted into the atmosphere and then deposited in advance of the fire, it's very hard to defend against that. You know, we can have as yesterday we saw some spots that were occurring at least a half-mile in advance of the main fire front, flaming front, then no amount of fire line that we create or construct is going to be wide enough to hold that. So what we can do is protect against those wind-blown embers, and if we go to the FireWise website and look at some of the specific guidelines that they have, it will do a long ways in helping homeowners be proactive in protecting their own property.
Now, Mark, I know you're really busy, and we certainly do appreciate your time.